I never thought an ordinary Saturday afternoon would turn into one of the most unforgettable memories of my life. My name is Sarah Miller, and I live in a quiet suburban neighborhood just outside of Portland, Oregon. I've always loved the small comforts of home, especially on weekends when the world seems to slow down just enough for me to catch my breath. That day, the house was unusually still, with only the sound of birds outside my window and the hum of the refrigerator filling the air. It was the kind of day where I felt like a kid again, and maybe that's why I pulled out something I hadn't touched in years, a little wooden train set I'd kept since childhood. It wasn't fancy, just a collection of colorful tracks and cars my dad had given me when I was about 7 years old. I used to spend hours on the floor, creating winding tracks that circled around furniture and raced under chairs. It was my treasure, a reminder of simpler days before the responsibilities of adulthood settled in. I sat cross-legged on the living room carpet, carefully connecting the curved pieces of track. My fingers brushed over the paint that had chipped in places, and I couldn't help but smile. For a few moments, I felt transported back to the small girl I once was, dreaming big dreams and imagining the trains carried tiny passengers to faraway lands. Just as I was about to connect the final piece, I heard the sound of the front door creaking open. My sister Emily had mentioned she might stop by later with her son, but I hadn't expected them so soon. I didn't even have time to tuck the toy away before I saw my nephew, Ethan, bounding into the living room. He was 8 years old, full of energy, with messy brown hair and the kind of curious eyes that seemed to notice everything. "Aunt Sarah," he exclaimed, dropping his backpack near the couch. But then his eyes widened as he noticed the tracks sprawled across the carpet. "Whoa, is that a train set?" I felt a little embarrassed at first. I was an adult after all, and here I was sitting on the floor surrounded by toys. But before I could explain, Ethan ran over, his excitement radiating through the room. "This is awesome. Can I play too?" he asked, already kneeling down beside me. I laughed, shaking my head at how quickly the tables had turned.
Of course you can.
I was just setting it up. You can help me finish the track. Together, we worked to create a sprawling layout that twisted around the coffee table and curved near the edge of the couch. Ethan was surprisingly focused, carefully clicking each piece into place and making sound effects as he imagined trains rushing by. I watched him with a quiet smile, realizing that the toy I had once loved so dearly was now bringing him the same joy. By the time Emily came into the room carrying a grocery bag, Ethan and I were already deep into our game. She stopped at the doorway, raising an eyebrow. "Well, isn't this a sight?" she teased. I shrugged playfully. "Hey, don't knock it until you try it. This is serious business." Ethan laughed so hard, he nearly toppled over. "Mom, Aunt Sarah's the best. She kept her toy from when she was a kid, and now we get to play with it together." Emily smiled softly, setting the bag on the kitchen counter. I could see the emotion flicker in her eyes, the kind of look siblings share when they both remember the past. She knew how much that train set had meant to me. The rest of the afternoon flew by in laughter and stories. Ethan insisted on naming every train car, giving them personalities as if they were part of a grand adventure. One train was Captain Red, the fearless leader, while another was Blue Lightning, the fastest car in the land. I played along, adding voices and scenarios that made him laugh until he clutched his stomach. At one point, Ethan paused and looked at me with wide, thoughtful eyes. "Aunt Sarah, did you play with this train set all by yourself when you were my age?" I nodded, my heart warming at the memory. "Yes, I did. Sometimes I'd play with my dad, your grandpa. He was the one who gave it to me. He said every time I played with it, I should imagine the tracks taking me somewhere wonderful." Ethan leaned closer, almost whispering, "Do you still imagine that?" His innocent question caught me off guard. I hadn't thought about it in years, but the truth was, in that moment, I was imagining it again. I smiled gently. "Yes, I think I do. And now I get to imagine it with you." That was when I realized something important. This wasn't just about a toy or reliving a piece of my childhood. It was about passing something down, about sharing a piece of myself with someone I loved. It was about connection, the kind that bridges generations and turns small moments into lifelong memories. Later that evening, after Emily and Ethan had left, I sat on the couch staring at the train set still sprawled across the floor. The house was quiet again, but it no longer felt empty. It felt full of laughter, love, and a sense of belonging. My nephew had walked in while I was playing with my toy, and instead of teasing or questioning, he had joined me wholeheartedly. That simple act had reminded me of the beauty of family and the power of letting yourself be vulnerable enough to share what you love, no matter how small or silly it may seem. As I carefully packed the train set back into its box, I made a promise to myself. The next time Ethan came over, we would build the biggest track yet. And maybe, just maybe, we'd invite Emily to join us too. Because sometimes the smallest toys carry the greatest lessons. That joy doesn't fade with age, and family is the track that keeps us connected no matter where life takes us.